welcome back to the Nest, Season 4, Episode 2. Believe it or not, as Mr. Vialry and I wrap the winter sports season, and what a season it was. I think the theme, Mr. Vialry, that you will hear throughout this show is a youth movement, not to mention a lot of multi-sport athletes as we roll through this list. And we're going to kick it off with one of the most winningest coaches in New Jersey track history, a living legend, if you will, Coach Mark Dixon and his winter track squad. Coach Dixon was assisted this year by Coach Burke when Mr. Dixon went out on his knee surgery, as well as longtime track coach Mr. Bob Cooper, and great development. Winter track, the big thing about winter track is you develop these kids for spring track. And when you're talking about a Mark Dixon coach team, you're always going to talk about development.
Yeah, and again, you talk to any coach is involved in track in the area. You know, when you say West Stafford, they always talk. Hey, with just great respect for Coach Dixon.
Yeah,
you know, for his knowledge, his competitiveness, and you know, so yeah, for the winter, of course, it looked like we had pretty good numbers that came out this year.
Yep,
a lot of personal records, and
yep.
Again, that's what you want to see. Winter track's inconvenient.
It's a grind.
It is. Yeah.
I mean, it is just a miserable grind. There's no dual meets. You're going up to the Toms River Bubble. That's an hour and 40-minute drive both ways, and you drive for longer than you actually compete. But if you talk to these winter track coaches, what the winter season does is set kids up for success and keep them ahead of the curve going into the spring. And nobody represents that philosophy better than Junior Ray Senator, our pole vaulter, who had multiple PRs throughout the year and qualified for the Meet of Champions after placing 6th in South Jersey. And when I talked to Coach Dixon at the end of the year, he couldn't say enough great things about how coachable Ray was. But his point to Ray, even though Ray was a little bit disappointed in his performance at the Meet of Champions, was Ray, think about how far ahead you are and where you would be if you went in the spring without doing the winter pole vault season, because Ray was formerly a basketball player. So a great move by Ray, preparing himself for what's going to be a successful spring track season.
Yeah, and Ray, I have him in class. We talked a little bit about the history of pole vaulters in West Stafford. We've had some great pole vaulters, and of course, you know, Coach Dixon is one of the primary reasons why, right?
PVU.
Yeah, he is the premier pole vault coach in the area.
Yep.
And so, Senator, good athlete, from what I gather, good speed, good strength, and has the makeup to be another one of those great pole vaulters here at West Stafford.
And when you look at the list of best performances this year, the one thing that I see is a lot of kids coming back. 2 seniors in Kelly Levingood and Paige McCullen, both 4x4 relay partners who will be graduating. But Kayla Romanowski, freshman. Emily Hernandez in the 55-meter hurdles, great performance, junior. Isabella Mackey carrying over from her state qualifying performance in cross country from the fall, had a great winter season, the 16 and the 32. Rachel Barford, 3-sport athlete, one of my favorite people in the building. Her leadership is just second to none. She's a junior pole vaulter, 4x4 relay. We mentioned Levingood and McCullen, and then Talia Thomason, who's also a 3-sport athlete in the 800 and the 4x4. So a lot of females in that crew, too. The girls' track season spring is going to shape up to be a very competitive one. So congratulations to our winter track squad on a great season, and best of luck to those of you moving forward in the spring. And that rolls us.
Nice segue.
Thank you. Lehigh grad, English degree. Rolls us into our bowling season, and we stick with the female side here, and the girls bowling squad coming off of a division championship. And Coach Burrs is like Folsom-esque in the way he sets you up for the season. We're going to be all full, be lucky to win a match. You know, I don't know what we've got coming out. And then all of a sudden they're in the running, and it comes down to the last meet of the year, which they ended up losing, I believe, the GCIT to come in second in the division. But sent Alexis Schlegel, a junior, to the state tournament, qualified for the state tournament. And again, you look at the girls squad, all sophomores, 1 freshman, and a junior.
Yeah, and finished the season at 6-3-1, game back from a division win, and you know, and great kids once again. So speaking to Alexis about this, it was a very exciting season for them. I think they exceeded expectations. They were were very happy and excited to be in a position to where they were one match away from winning.
Yep.
And so, talking to Coach Seatley a little bit too in the beginning of the season, he thought, we have a good team. We'll see what happens. And I think just like with track, he saw a lot of improvement, a lot of personal records set, and so on pace for another good season next year. And, Alexis, again, another one of our multiple sport athletes, right?
Yep, and they're hungry. That crew of girls are hungry. They're going to practice in the off season. They're going to, do everything necessary to put themselves in a position to be division champions next year. On the boys' side, not their best year. Not a lot of depth over there. However, Andrew Reifenrath, senior, finishes 16th overall in the state. And what's most impressive about Andrew's 16th place finish is that's amongst all groups, public or non-public. So literally West Effort has the 16th best bowler in all of New Jersey, which is the highest finish since Brandon Parker went on that run. I think he finished third in the state in the 2019-2020 year. So, and I know Coach Bird was surprised. He said that Andrew really peaked at the right time, both in sectionals and during the state tournament. So, a solid season by Andrew, assisted by that was a little more senior heavy group. Sean Kennedy, Joey Fiorentino, and then Anthony Schwart and Dylan Pfaff all helped out on the boys' side this year.
Yeah, and Reifenrath had a high game of 257 this year, which is impressive. And
my average.
Yeah, that's right. That's one thing I noticed too in the faculty-student bowling contest that we have at the end of the season. The best bowler always lines up with either Sealy or Kirshner. There's never any balance to it.
Apparently, it's by request, which is ridiculous.
I'm not buying that.
Because I've requested the best bowler every year, and he never.
Right, and it always ends up with Sealy.
Yes.
And who won this year? Did you see?
It was Mr. Gore.
Gore, that's right.
Mr.
Yeah.
Gore.
I'll tell you what, we could put together a faculty team here to compete.
It'd be ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody beats us.
Yeah.
You go Gore, Sealy, Kirshner.
It's top three right there.
Done deal.
Yeah.
So best of luck to bowling as they move forward. Looking forward to a successful year next winter, and that moves us into the pool. And while our final record on our swim squad was 5-7, there's some things that, as an athletic, I'm extremely proud of. Number one, you have one of the best and most longest tenured swim coaches in the area, in Julia Lancaster Vila, a Hall of Famer, also and a 3-sport athlete, but. Her daughter, April, really special senior year, one of the best swimmers in the state. She qualified for the state tournament in both the 50 freestyle and the 100-meter breaststroke. And like we had Andrew as the 16th best bowler in the state, we also at West Effort High School have the 5th best 100-meter breaststroker in the state of New Jersey, a South Jersey champion. And April is a 3-sport athlete as well, a great kid. She's committed to Marist to swim for a very good Marist swim team, and how I can't imagine how special it is to have your daughter not only be able to coach your own child, have a successful experience, but have her be one of the best in the state.
Yeah, and you wouldn't know April was that good at swimming if you didn't read up and follow her, because she doesn't talk about it very much. At least, and I had her in class. She's a quiet kid, but always smiling and very unassuming. But yeah, and coaching your kid, especially when they're good, right?
Yeah.
It's when you're trying to, because you and I have been there. When you're coaching your kid, it presents its own unique challenges. But it definitely helps if they're the 5th best in the state.
Yeah.
And I'm sure her mom has a huge part in that also, teaching her the right way from the beginning and putting her in the right places as she's coming up. And April clearly has some great natural ability to do this.
Yep, and she's going to have a great college career as well. So that's the first thing I'm proud of for our swim team. The second thing is, and we absolutely need more of this. When I was in high school, back in the day, we had a lot of multi-sport males. Our swim teams at West Effort for a long time were some of the most elite. And a lot of those were multi-sport males. And
now, did you guys swim in a pool then, or were you swimming in the river at that point?
No, that was in the Delaware.
It was in the Delaware.
Yeah, upstream. And this year we had that. We had Andrew Bergen, 3-sport athlete, Tyler McAleer, 3-sport athlete, Mikey Monte Carlo, 3-sport athlete, along with Jesse Scarborough, multi-sport athlete, Cooper Eastlack, multi-sport athlete. The problem is a lot of those guys are seniors.
Yeah.
And we have to compete. We don't have enough males to be considered a co-ed team. So even though 3/4 of our team is female, we have to compete as a boys team. And it makes it tough. And it was critical that those guys came out and they all played a role, along with Abby Simcoe and Emmy Goldberg and Michaela Laxton. But we need more of that. More guys that say, I'm looking for that winter sport. I don't want to beat myself up, but I want to participate and help this school win. And swimming's a great sport for that.
Yeah, and I think the other side too is swimming's hard.
Yep.
I mean, conditioning is very difficult. So other sports, you might go out and say, I want to go out. If I'm on the JV team, it'll be a good social experience. I'll get a little bit better. Well, this isn't my focus. Swimming is it's not easy. And so I think that's a big part of why it's difficult sometimes just to get a kid to go out there and do it on their own. They do the first few sessions, and you're like, man, this is a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be.
Oh, yeah.
But nothing's better probably just for that, and wrestling to me are the two best sports for conditioning and toughness. I think you could sell it on that point alone.
No doubt.
For some of our other athletes.
So best of luck to April. She moves forward. We have her signing day here in a few days, and great job by Coach Lancaster and Coach Brian McKeever on another successful swim season.
And sorry to interrupt you. What is the Marist mascot?
Red Fox.
I thought I had you on
nice
that.
try.
I thought I had you. Yeah.
Foxes. Red Foxes,
yes,
as
right.
on their website. When we come back, we are going to bring in the voice of the winter live stream here in the Nest, Benny Buckets Marraffa, as we take a look at this year's boys and girls basketball squads and the seasons they had in the 22-23 winter season. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. And welcome back, Eagle Nation, as we prepare to talk about West Everett High School basketball, boys and girls. And who better, Mr. Vialry, to bring onto the set than the voice of the winter athletics here at West Everett High School. Our live stream voice of the Eagles is Mr. Benny Buckets Marraffa. Ben, thanks so much for joining us today. I know you got baseball practice in a little bit, so you got a lot going on. Like, this is your time now as we move into the spring. So thanks for being here, Ben. But, boys and girls basketball this year, the theme, as we've discussed before, is kind of a youth movement. And I can't think of two better teams, maybe besides wrestling, that represent a youth movement than these two teams. Boys basketball, we'll start there. One senior. They finished with a record of 8-20, but don't let that record fool you. There were 8 games where they lost by less than 10 points, and those are those games where you put people on the free throw line late and they start to pull away a little bit. And 4 of those 8 were 5 points or less. So I'll open the floor, guys. I think they were a tougher team than people maybe thought initially. I thought Coach McEwen got the most out of that group that he had, and they got everybody coming back next year.
Yeah, I'll start off. I watched mostly every game, especially for boys basketball. I'm really impressed with the young guys they have. With Corey Ratcliffe made tremendous strides this year underneath the rim playing center. I'm impressed with Zay Majid, one of the leading three-point shooters. Aiden Cramner was basically the leader of that team. I'm really impressed with what they got from the young guys.
Yeah, and again, as a coach, you have one senior, and so as you're coming back this year, you're going to have most of your points coming back. So as a high school coach, you always think to yourself, all right, I got 40 points coming back this year. So typically it's going to take you 55 to 60 to win, and that becomes a much more manageable number. So, and again, if you're going to talk with the young players, Mark Kozlowski, of course, bringing a little bit something that the team sometimes lacks, which is the ability of a guy to score when the offense breaks down. Sometimes West Stafford, we have players who can score, and you see the same thing with the girls this year, right? Where when things get into a scramble, things break down, sometimes you just need a guy to beat a guy off the dribble or a big guy to get a put back for the easy two. And that seemed to be lacking a little bit. And Mark, I thought from what I saw, under control, going to the basket, finishes well. I think he's going to bring that.
Yeah, Mark was my unsung hero. I tried to give out some of my own awards after watching some of these games, and I thought Mark was absolutely the unsung hero. Without him, it's a completely different season, in my opinion. I know I had Andrea Trozzi and Aiden Crammer down here as my team leaders, and obviously, first of all, how lucky are we? The 2 Italian transfers that we've had, more importantly than being good basketball players, and shout out to Antonella Baggi, who's playing at your alma mater, Mr. Vialry, Gettysburg College. They're great people. Like, Andrea is a great kid, and his work ethic and his commitment and his maturity and selflessness, man, I'll tell you what, it's amazing that we got 2 such high character kids. But without Kozlowski on the floor, I think it's a different team. Obviously, Corey Ratcliffe showed he's a self-made guy. I mean, he's a weight room guy. He's a football kid, and he wasn't much to speak about coming into his high school career. And he's developed himself into a presence down low, and what I think is, and you can speak to this, Mr. Valeri, as well as anyone, having been the head coach here, but the Colonial Conference of basketball, regardless of Liberty or Patriot Division, is some of the best basketball in South Jersey.
Yeah, as a league, this year, from what I saw, and I watched quite a few games online, it wasn't as strong as it's been in the past. Like Haddonfield was a very strong team, Sterling was strong, but not their best teams that you've seen over the last 15 years or so. And when you talk about Corey, I just think Corey was just a measure of consistency, right? I mean, I looked at his numbers, about 13 points a game, average about 10 rebounds a game. And I'm looking at the box scores after every game, it's the same thing. And like you said, self-made. He gets off the floor well. He works hard, and it's the old West Effort way. When they were really rolling basketball-wise, you had your football players like that. I think like a Damon McWhite, guys who averaged 12 and 10.
Isaiah Worthy.
They were great on the glass. They got the loose balls. They were good defensive players. And then you have some kids that can score. So like you'd like to see that from Kramer next year, right? Getting to the basket a little bit more. A second team all-conference player, Kramer, right? He finished really strong this year. So there's things they got to work on. They got to protect the ball better. Right? They turn 100%. The ball over way too much. That's what you see with younger teams. But like you said, though, unfortunately, the Colonial, it's always tough.
Yeah.
Even the bad teams are usually pretty good. So everybody can lose on any given night.
Yeah.
So you got to be ready in the Colonial.
High character kids, though. You had the opportunity to see our coaching staff be able to coach without distraction off the court. Even on the court, very little ego, very little. There was nothing too cute or too over the top, or they were just a blue-collar, hard-hat team.
Yeah, I also want to give credit to Zayd Mujahid and Ryan Heaton, and both of those two were in and out the lineup, and both of those did a great job defensively, and especially Zayd hitting some clutch three-point shots, but neither of them complained. They got up there. They were taken out at the time that Coach Matuna took them out, but they played great defense and gave the effort they needed to. Most of those kids, especially Aiden, hit 3 or 4, I believe, game-tying shots.
Yeah.
And then Corey Ratcliffe, from his sophomore to his junior year, made tremendous strides. He was in and out the lineup, and all of a sudden, I remember coming to the first game and seeing him, he was like dunking the ball. I'm like, wow, because especially since I played with him during football season, it's just like you turn the switch like in a matter of moments.
Ben, I know you're graduating at the end of this year, but what does your gut say this team's going to do next year?
I'm really excited. I believe they lost a lot of games within 10 points. They were in mostly every game within the last 2 minutes. I'm really excited for Cramner. Mujahid, that's a good junior class there. But the sophomore class with Kozlowski, you got Nick Senator, he got some minutes. Really excited for what to come. They're head down, straight to the ball. Don't really complain much. Really good team.
They had a quality freshman crew, too, that got games under their belts this year, I think 10 or 12 games, and they were competitive in all of them, playing bigger schools.
Yeah, and again, they were in that challenge where they're doing JV and freshman.
Right, yep.
And, guys like Carter Watson and, just Eastlack, Alan Eastlack did a nice job. Brady Cotton. So you got some good young players, Mickey Walsh coming forward. So that's what you want to see. It's tough. You don't have a class, and they don't have a senior class.
Right.
I mean, they have one kid. It's hard to compete. So at all levels, because it forces kids up to play JV when they shouldn't be, JV guys playing varsity when they shouldn't be. It makes it a challenge. But so they weathered the storm this year. I think they're going to be better for it next.
Transitioning to the girls' side, similar situation. Boys are 8-20, girls are 11-17. Lost 10 games by less than 10 points, and 6 of those 10 were less than 5. Were 5 points or less. I mean, this is a team that it could have been I don't even like saying could have, would have, should have, but the reality is this could have been a 20-win team. An 18-win team, a 16-win team, a 3 or 4 seed. But again, a youth movement. 2 seniors, and Sophia Belbin and Bella DeCesar, that impact players. And to be quite honest, as much as they could have been an 18-win team, they could have been a 6-win team without Sophia Belbin, because she was such a presence as a senior in the middle. Her height and consistency, similar to Ratcliffe in some ways, really allowed West Effort to kind of settle into what they want to do offensively in a lot of scenarios.
Yeah, Bella, I believe she missed a decent amount of games, so they didn't really have her.
Sophia and Bella
Yeah.
both went out with a concussion from the same game when they collided. And there were 2 weeks where both were out. And it was a 2-week stretch where we were seeing some hammers of teams. But what I absolutely loved that Coach Petito did, he was not afraid to start throwing. The young group in this girls basketball team is aggressive,
Yeah,
and they're basketball-minded kids.
I'm excited for that freshman class. I've seen some really good players coming from that class right there, pairing them along with Janie Cross next season.
Yeah, and Janie's, she is your stud. She's, on the verge of potentially scoring 1,000 points. But there are 3 post players between Jayla Everly, who was in for 9 minutes against Haddon Heights, scored 8 points, Sierra Moss, and Deanna Lawrence. Those 3 post players are all more than capable of being varsity basketball players, but they need to have a great offseason to do that. And when you add in Rayanna Jameson, who also had 8 points in the game against Haddon Heights, there's a squad coming back.
Yeah, and one thing you noticed with West Effort, and similar to the boys' side of it, was the struggle to score outside of the offense, right? So just looking at it, they gave up 39 points a game this year. So if you give up 39 points a game, you would think your record would be better than 11 and 17.
Yeah.
Because they do play hard, and they're tough to score on. It's just a matter of, that's why you have certain games where, they beat a Woodstown team that was 20 and 7.
Right.
You have a game where you hit some shots out of the offense, you get rolling a little bit, but you have to be able to score outside. And from the games I've watched, they struggled from the perimeter, getting to the basket effectively and getting some easy buckets in transition. And that's something they have to do, I think, to get to that 50 points a game marker.
So from the coach's perspective, are you saying that the only thing this crew is missing from being a great team is they need some perimeter? They need to finish shooting.
Yeah, Janie can shoot. I have girls that can shoot the ball from the perimeter. I just think sometimes you got to be able to break people down off the dribble, and then you get the penetration, sinking the defense. It's a little bit more reliable than a 3-point shot,
right.
At the high school level, right?
Yeah.
A good high school player shoots 35% from the field. And it's unreliable game in, game out, where if you can get people attacking the glass, and especially like you said, they got some young bigs that are good.
Yeah.
Then it forces the help to step up. It opens up offensive rebound chances. So, Petito coaches an aggressive style, right? So I'm sure that's what he wants too. He wants people going hard to the basket, getting to the foul line, and trying to pick up some points.
Yeah.
One of the important things early in the season, the girls got off to a slow start in the starter games, and then watching them at the end of the season, they were right there the whole time. And I think that's one thing they need to fix for next season is getting off to a faster start, and because it seems like they need a little bit of energy to get going. But at the end of the season, they fixed that a little bit. They got better. I'm really excited for Sierra Moss. She didn't play much until Sophia got hurt. She got in. She played some really good minutes. I like what I've seen from her.
It's really about they need to get over the hump of winning those close games.
Yeah.
The competitive maturity,
right,
I guess, is what I'm looking for from that crew. And there's no excuse not to have it next year. You throw in Jessie Diaz, who will be a 3-year varsity letter winner next year. Olivia Herrera, who is just a house defensively. Great athlete, very strong. Those two give them a great defensive presence. So as a whole, they need to look at each other and say, there's not a situation or scenario that we have not been in. And we got to have the confidence to finish and get over the hump and win those games. And that's what I think is going to separate, a winning season next year, a very successful season, from a disappointing one next year.
Yeah, and I think from the girls' side too, if I'm the coach, you have your point guard coming back. Right?
Yeah,
you have she's the 3-year starter, 4-year starter,
3-year starter.
So that's a great place to start. On the boys' side, who's going to be the point guard next year for the boys' side?
Aiden, yep.
Aiden
Probably
Kramer.
assume Aiden.
So he plays a little bit off guard too, right?
Yeah.
From what I've seen over the years, he's kind of that sort of hybrid. So for them, the boys' side, it's clear they don't turn the ball over. Yep. At the games I watched, anytime there was any 3/4 court, full court pressure, they gave up so many points and turnovers in transition. Yep. On the girls' side, it's more just being able to score a little bit more out of the half court.
Yeah.
And I think the girls are going to be good next year. I agree from what I saw.
Yeah, the girls did a good job of not turning the ball over, and I think that's mostly because of Janie Cross.
They tightened it up as the year went on. Because that was their Achilles heel a year ago.
And I think that has to go to Janie. She did some, and then also the play calling. They set up a lot of plays. Coach Petito did a great job with getting Belbin in the post, getting her to post up a little bit. She had a good year with them, but they were also great feeds inside. Bella, when she was in the corner, she would overhead passes. They had some great passes, a little sloppy sometimes on, I would say, just like they settle too much. I
Yeah.
like to see more drives.
Well, that's like Mr. Lair was talking about. You know, they need to set their offense.
Yep.
They feel much more comfortable when they have set offense. And it comes with reps.
Yeah.
I will say, and I'll finish with the girls' side with this. One of the best performances that I have seen this in the past few years did not come necessarily on the court, but the leadership of Belbin and DeCesar when they were out to bring along, to be invested in those young kids that were filling their shoes for the time being was really impressive. And I think the development of the youngsters was exponentially improved because of the investment of the seniors who were out. And sometimes, and we see this, Ben, we've seen this in football from some guys. Mr. Larry, you've seen this before. When athletes get injured, it's almost like when the world keeps moving on, it's really hard to stay engaged because you're not in the fire. And you often see them off to the side. Maybe stop coming to practice a couple of days. Hey, I'll show up when I start feeling better, and they're just disconnected. And that did not happen with these girls at all. And that was really impressive. So
Yeah, those girls are great human beings. Off the court, nicest people you ever meet, talk to. But on the court, I think they've gave the younger a voice for the younger group, and that's exactly what they needed because they're a good squad and they're going to need somebody to step up without Belbin and DeCesar next year. And hopefully Janie Cross could fill that role. I'm sure she can. I believe she was a captain this year, right?
She was.
She was. So I'm excited for those young guys. I'm really especially for them.
Absolutely. And that's going to wrap up our basketball segment here on our Winter Sports Wrap. Benny Buckets, thanks so much for being here,
man. I had
man.
a fun time.
More importantly, thank you for being the heart and soul of our Winter Live Stream crew. Man, you do a tremendous job. I can't tell you how many compliments we get about the job that you do, bringing the games into the living rooms, into the restaurants around South Jersey and West Effort, and we're proud of you, buddy. Best of luck this baseball season,
Appreciate
okay?
it.
And with that, we will be back to wrap up as we talk about wrestling squad and their run at a Group 2 South Championship, as well as West Effort Marching Band and the job they did in the fall and winter. We'll be back. And we return, Season 4, Episode 2, our winter wrap for the 22-23 season, and we get into our final segment here, Mr. Vialry, and we're going to kick it off with our wrestling squad. West Effort, traditionally known for great wrestling, and this year with a record of 16-12, I think that if you spoke to the coaching staff, probably a number of the wrestlers on the squad, they would say it was a disappointing year. But we ran to an appearance in the Group 2 South Championship. And it's hard to say, it's a real disappointing season when we were just a few points away from winning another sectional title. It's been a storied career for young coach Nick Iraldi in just a short, what feels like he hasn't been here for more than 2 years. He's actually been here, I think this was year 7 for Nick. He's got multiple sectional titles under his belt. He's got a state semifinal appearance. And, while this squad may have fallen short to their standards, youth movement, baby. 1 senior or 2 seniors in the lineup this year. Albeit Cole Dubois was an impact as soon as he stepped foot on the mat for us. But, it's always fun to watch West Effort wrestling, and we look for big things to come.
Yeah, and I think following the wrestling team each match, they just didn't seem to put it all together at any point in time. So once one king came back, another one was out.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of matches when you looked at the end, you're like, man, 1 or 2 pivotal matches just didn't seem to break their way a lot this year.
Yeah.
And, and I chuckle as you say that. Like, I wouldn't have minded the South Jersey final when I was coaching, right? I mean, when you look at the record, the league is tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to make excuses, but this is not an easy wrestling league. You said that the Colonial is very good in basketball. I would make the argument that it might be its best sport might be wrestling.
Yeah, no doubt.
They're in.
No doubt. And Audubon was back up on top this year. They had a great season. Gloucester coming into the Colonial made it that much tougher. Right. Obviously, Paulsboro, Haddonfield, the list goes on and on. What I would say about this team, they just need to get out of their own way. I hope the lesson they learn going into next year is stay out of your own way. Don't allow things that you can control to get in the way of you being successful. Mm-hmm. Let the uncontrollables be the things you're complaining about at the end of the year. And I think that comes down to maturity. And you see it right here. There's only 2 seniors in the lineup. Only one of those 2 seniors was in for the entirety of the year. And that means we were a young squad. So from a maturity standpoint, that needs to be their priority as they move into this off season. And we talk about the seniors on the team that were in the lineup the most. Cole Dubois and Ramir Vaughn. Cole, like I said, as soon as he walked into West Everett High School, he was a perfect fit. Coming to us from Shalleck, he finished his career with over 100 career victories. He ties the school record for wins in a season at 42. He finishes second in the region. He qualified. He lost in the blood round of states. And these were all goals that Cole set for himself. That's why he came to West Effort. He wanted to have the opportunity to compete at the highest level. And being able to get to that blood round. The blood round is that round where he won his first match, lost the second, won 3 in a row. If you win your blood round match, you are getting on the podium. No matter what happens from that point forward, you're going to be in the top 8. So that's the survival round. And he lost a tough match to a really good Lower Cape May opponent. But there were quite a few kids that came out of the woodwork this year due to the injuries that you're referring to that really made for an exciting year.
Yeah, and like you said, when I was looking at the roster, I didn't realize collectively how young they were until I actually, getting prepared for this, realized that, it was 11 out of the 13 starters who wrestled in a South Jersey final were underclassmen.
Yep.
And so that does explain at times the sort of inconsistency, and at times it seemed they always had this sort of feel of like frustration around that team where they weren't quite where they wanted to be and they're not quite getting there. And, because a lot of times at West Effort, because the schedule is ridiculous. I mean, they wrestled St. Peter's twice. I mean, the early season tournaments and things like that, they accumulate some team losses. And then when February rolls around, all of a sudden, they're like peaking.
Yeah.
And it didn't quite feel like they were getting to where they've gotten to in previous years. And I don't think that's a fair comparison this year against some of the other teams just because they were young. And,
right.
I think maybe we were a little bit, at times, the expectations were a little bit more than what they should have been for such a young roster.
Yeah.
And coming back, I mean, they've got a really good group of wrestlers. I mean, like some of the names, like Lundfelt had a good year.
Yeah. Trevor was great. I had a couple end of season accolades here. Unsung hero Caleb Jackson, one of the most exciting wrestlers to watch. He's a sophomore. Was thrust into the starting lineup due to injury and had to come out of the gate, had to wrestle some of the best opponents in South Jersey at a really hard weight class, 157. As a sophomore is really tough because you're getting seniors and juniors that are coming down from 175, 180 pounds. And he opened up with a state police winner from a year ago and got a takedown, and his confidence level just skyrocketed. Most promising, Ryan McGonaghy, a young, lightweight, 106-pounder. He's a throwback to the West Effort days of old. Like he could be on the 2023 team. He could be on the 96 team. He's just that kind of mold. I thought Owen Entrican, a sophomore, had a great sophomore season. They got Andrew Ty, obviously, from the, with a long line of tradition from ties, and Andrew qualified for the state tournament as well, which is great for him for next year. Nick Graziano, Trevor Lundfeld, who you mentioned. So a lot of heavy hitters coming back next year.
Yeah, and I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Jaden Bennett also.
She's my unsung hero.
Yeah. I mean, Jaden unfortunately suffers, I guess, a ligament injury in the elbow. I mean,
UCL.
And, I mean, could have been a state champion.
Yes.
If healthy.
Yes.
I mean, she would tell you, I think I had gotten it done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she finished second in the region with one arm.
Yeah.
Truly. And it was heart-wrenching the week leading up to regions to watch her go through the agony of, should I wrestle? Am I going to wrestle? The pain that she was feeling. And the same thing for the states. As she got to the state tournament, just that arm was done.
Right.
But if obviously as a father of 3 girls, one of whom is a wrestler, fills me with incredible pride to have a female wrestler who to have as a role model in this building and in the sport. And she's gonna have I know she's gonna have an incredible senior year, and it's gonna be exciting, man. Buckle up because we might have our second state champion in school history and first female state champion on the horizon.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, you look at the roster. Just I agree with your assessment. Just an overall maturity, and I think kids starting to realize that they're good.
Yeah.
And starting to get that other stuff out of the way, focusing on, getting better. You
Yeah.
know, it seemed like sometimes guys got in their own way a little bit this year. So being committed to themselves, to the team, to the weight loss that they have to make, and all those things, that's all part of just developing as you get older.
Yep, selfless sacrifice. And those guys are back in the weight room already.
Yeah.
Yesterday was workout number 1.
And wrestling demands it.
Yes.
It does.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we are going to finish our winter sports wrap up with the West Effort Marching Band. They kind of rolled in. We didn't get a chance to talk about them in the fall when we wrapped up. However, they have a winter color guard portion as well that's been very successful. That former athlete, West Effort student athlete Caitlin Fenning is heading up that ship, and that is a tight ship. I mean, she is clearly a Tom Kershaw disciple. I mean, there is all go, no show about the way that they prepare for events. But West Effort Marching Band, once again, one of the most elite marching bands in the state. First place finish in the Group 2 Open Class. 2022 New Jersey State Grand Champions out of 52 bands. Second in the ACCs, which I know grinds Mr. Kershaw's gears. It's so funny when people ask me what was it like to work with Linda Decker, or what was it like to work with Clyde Folsom. Tom Kershaw, they're all three of those. It's like the Mount Rushmore of the fall. Right there. And they are all very similar. They're all different, but their attention to detail, the first-class way that they approach their craft, and their passion for the participants and for their, in this case, for music, is just out of this world. And that's why they continue to have the success that they do.
Yeah, and again, Tom's demanding, right? I mean, we've talked a lot about that. You have to be a great coach. You have to be demanding, and he's respected and liked by the people in the band and by the parents. He's created.
Not always an easy line to walk.
Right, it's a tough one, right? And so what we know, because I know we've done away games now, right? We're filming away games, so we're up in the booth, and at halftime you can see other directors and band parents from other schools, and they come up into the booth because they want to watch and they want to see, and they just rave about how coordinated, first off, the marching is, and of course the music. Tom's really good at coming up with the plan itself. Like this year, Drawn In. Yeah, Drawn In. Marissa Parisi's dad did the artwork and the way it facilitates. So even a novice like me who just watches it, you find it incredibly entertaining.
Yeah, and I come to every band home show specifically to see our band perform because of how special it is. Drum major Adam Humeniuk did a great job this year. 7 consecutive seasons as the highest scoring band in the regular season out of 162 bands. That's the equivalent of saying we were the highest scoring offense for the last 7 years in South Jersey. Yeah. I mean, that's really impressive.
Yeah. And again, it's like you said, it takes everybody involved, right?
Yep.
So you got a great director, you've got dedicated musicians, and of course the parents are clearly 100% behind what their students and their kids are doing.
As powerful as a group as it gets.
Yeah, so it's a model for any program.
Yep.
If you want to be successful, they're a good place to look at and see how they do things.
I remember talking to Tom a couple of years ago, and he said, I used to go out and watch Clyde Folsom coach because I knew he was elite, and I wanted to see the way he operated, and I mimicked a lot of things he did. Now I find myself as a coach watching how Tom operates in a lot of ways, and trying to incorporate that and that passion and attention and detail he has, which is just amazing. So a great job by WDMB, great job by Winter Color Guard. Best of luck to Winter Color Guard. They're not done yet, so Coach Fenning, good luck to you as you wrap up your winter season. And finally, as we shut this episode 2, season 4 down, shout out to our esports team and Mr. Mike Sealy, who just cannot. I mean, I don't know if he's living in a world with 36 or 48 hours, but he seems to, if he steps away from one thing, he picks up an even bigger task somewhere else. I mean, he's just an unbelievable human being, and he's got that esports program running around the clock now. I mean, we have 3 fall, winter, and spring, and we're going to recap them at the end of the spring wrap, but doing an incredible job with our esports program.
Yeah, anything Mr. Sealy's involved in grows exponentially.
Yes.
Right? So within a month later, like the tennis program, all of a sudden you've got 40 kids.
Yeah.
Right. He's such an engaging guy, and he makes everything fun. And now they have a chess team, right?
Yep.
Now it's not just what's that game with it? I shouldn't even talk about esports, but all of a sudden now it's like 6 different games, not just one, and the participation has increased tenfold. So, like I said, you see with West Effort, as we talk about all these things, there's just something for everybody, right? Which is great.
Yeah, it is. And you mentioned this off air. it always seems like when we do something, we try to take it to another level.
Yeah.
And we try to be ahead of the curve, whether it's this and Ray Kirshner's brainchild of live stream and how we can make it better. We've been talking nonstop about some future live stream events, and so many people are coming out of the woodwork talking about where they're watching. I'm watching this in my living room, and it's like watching NBC or ABC when you're Vialry and Dixon on a Friday night when I'm at Shalene's or the MRI or wherever watching this thing. It's really amazing, and this is just another step. Marching band, now esports. Like you said, it's just what we do at its highest level, or at least there's an attempt to do it at its highest level.
Yeah, I think good evidence to that is at a fall pep rally in the bleachers, they don't look like they look empty. Like, where is everybody? They're all participating. We're all in the teams.
Yep.
And so, it's remarkable here, and that's what's great about having a community school like West Deptford, a Group 2.
Yep.
Where everybody has an opportunity to play and everybody has an opportunity to be successful. So,
and that wraps us up for the winter season 22-23. Mr. Vialry, thank you so much for being here with us. We're getting ready for the spring. Will we be hearing your voice in some of those baseball games
and
over there at
softball,
Union and softball?
I love softball. So,
man, can't wait for that silky smooth voice of yours.
Both teams are going to be very good this year.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Yep. So thank you, Eagle Nation, for your support, for being a part of this thing with us, and we hope you have a great spring. We'll see you in a couple months.